Every attendee will be the end, and we can take questions using the question dialog box. And at the end of both presentations is when both presenters, Mohan and Patrick, will respond to some questions. So what I'll do is I'll tell you a little bit about Mohan right now by reading his bio to you. Mohan has been involved in the services industry for the past 15 years, using cutting-edge and innovative companies like Microsoft, UPS, and Canadian Imperial Bank of Commerce, CIBC. He was most recently the Director of Customer Delight Programs at Lenovo Services Asia Pacific, and prior to that, he was the Vice President of Shared Services for HSBC Global Resourcing located in Asia. Mohan is a graduate of the University of Southern Queensland in Australia and holds a Master of Business Administration degree. He is a certified Lean Six Sigma Black Belt holder and is passionate about continuous improvement and innovation strategies within the contact centers, using human capital and technology as key levers in the new economy. Mohan has delivered keynote speeches to audiences on the unique strengths and benefits of contact centers within an organization. His key messages touch on the knowledge and understanding of the three pillars of services: people, processes, and technology. I now will be turning the floor over to Mohan, who will go through his presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prem. Welcome everybody today for the presentation today on Lean Six Sigma and quality and the impact of it within your contact center processes and within the call center industry as we know it. And I would also like to thank our guest speaker, Patrick, as well for joining us, and he will lead into my topic towards the end of this program. Over the last decade or so, there has been a shift within the contact center, primarily in the areas of these key objectives that call center executives have been awake with regards to KPIs. And for the longest time, the call center, the contact center business has been considered as a cost center. And today, now, more and more, the contact center is really being used as a strategic business unit within businesses today, and also to enhance the customer experience more effectively with the deployment of more sophisticated tools and technology. Fundamentally, it's all about financial metrics, increasing revenues, and increasing shareholder profits as well, while at the same time reducing costs and keeping costs at a minimal rate. So these are the key context and objectives that most senior leaders are concerned with. And the contact center, again, is struggling to keep an eye on I guess, the first part, which is really cost, while at the same time increasing revenue. So as we move on to the next slide here, we talk about so many options today that the organization is really considering in terms of what do we need to do to reduce our cost? What do we need to do to be more effective and to reach out to our customer base and increase market penetration? And some of these technologies and processes are out there, and really in terms of trying to understand where exactly we need to take a look at to maximize our resources. As you know, budgets are being considered very carefully by senior management, so it is quite a dilemma for senior leaders these days. And I guess one of the trends we saw in the last decade is as work being outsourced, offshored to low-cost jurisdiction areas, while organizations focus on their core competencies, whether it's research and development or coming up with innovative products and services. The realities of today's business has shifted in the last 2 years, specific to the financial crisis, that a lot of organizations have felt, I guess, in the last 2 years, there was signs of the economic slowdown, and driven by the fact that a lot of customers as well were not as loyal to the products and services. So this, again, created an issue in the marketplace. As you see, the iceberg today in terms of the realities of today's business environment is really poor customer satisfaction continues to be a challenge, and also lower margins running an operation that's really heavy in resources. And again, declining sales revenues. A lot of executives are really looking at other opportunities while they are facing increased pressure to improve their revenue bottom lines. At the bottom of the iceberg, you see a couple of things that I've actually put down here as areas that seem to come up as a trend that seems to indicate the importance of focusing on the housekeeping activities, and senior leaders, senior managers that I've spoken to in operations or in the field, in the sales and marketing department, really, when they make the decisions, they really lack visual controls on what's happening internally to combat some of the industry challenges. Again, working in a recessionary environment to try and improve sales, inconsistent processes within, and a lot of work in process that's happening that causes some of the issues with regards to customer satisfaction. Some KPIs, again, we're talking about contact center specific, really to try and reduce the cost per contact. That is really efficiency that we're looking at. Order fulfillment time, retained from customers. How do contact center managers come up with ways to try and reduce complaints from customers? And it's one of the early warning indicators that customers are eventually going to defect to the competitor. Those are the early warning indicators in terms of complaints that you get from customers. And while at the same time as you're reducing complaints, you want to increase customer satisfaction scores and build a product line and increase the wallet share with the existing customers. So these are the measures that most contact center managers use within their program to see how successful the activities are. Overall, I mean, you know, most of this is a study done recently in North America, and most of the contact center managers that were responding to this survey said that generally they use customer surveys to see, you know, how their customers are responding to, and some of them actually take a look at rarely take a look at complaint analysis, 7%, and tracking first call resolution. Over 15% have actually used call monitoring as a methodology to determine customer satisfaction internally. So we're going to go into deeper into this to see how we can use call monitoring as one of the steps to increase customer loyalty, increase customer satisfaction, while at the same time reducing complaints using Lean Six Sigma. One of the agent metrics in this survey that internally most organizations use to measure employee productivity, efficiency, is using internal quality monitoring tools to determine how successful an employee is within their job scope. And some of the metrics, traditional metrics as in handle time, schedule adherence, and at the bottom end you can see that customer satisfaction complaints were least measured. But at the top end, you would see quality. My argument is both quality and customer satisfaction complaints there is a linkage, and I'll share that in this presentation. Just to go back a little bit, I would be remiss if I didn't talk about the Six Sigma history for the participants here as it relates to the contact centers. But in general, according to many business development quality improvement experts, the most popular management methodology so far has been Six Sigma, amongst other quality movements out there. It is a big industry, and it has come up quite often in the last 10, 15 years in the manufacturing sector. And it is actually built over in the last 5, 10 years now into the services. It has spilled over into the services industry. What Six Sigma is, it began in 1986. It is a statistical model to reduce variation. It began at Motorola back in 1986. And, 2 decades later, it's all over the world, governments to to services and multinational corporations. And today, we take a look at some of the leaders or the early adopters was really companies like Allied Signal, General Electric, and Motorola, who actually started their business processes, critical business processes, and they formalized an in-house performance improvement methodology, which basically is reducing defects. In 1991, Motorola certified its first black belt, Six Sigma experts, which really began the formalization of the accredited training of Six Sigma methodologies. In 1995, GE's famed Jack Welch knew Larry Bossidy, who once worked for him at GE, and Welch was very impressed with Bossidy's achievements and decided to implement Six Sigma at GE, and it generated several $1 billion in cost savings. Today, if you take a look at some of the activities through Six Sigma, it has become a part of the culture of some of these organizations, and one of the things that I really enjoyed back in the early days when I started on this journey was really embracing this philosophy. And back to GE, nobody at GE gets promoted without Six Sigma training, and some of this is public knowledge. But again, the benefits of Six Sigma has actually helped a lot of organizations specific to process improvement. Six Sigma improvements really is all about aligning your process to what the customer wants and optimizing this by really improving your performance and reducing variation. There's another framework called Design for Six Sigma. If you haven't really embraced Six Sigma or Lean Six Sigma, is how you design your organization or your department for Six Sigma. And this is a process where you actually develop new products or processes that are capable to actually withstand the scrutiny of Six Sigma. Again, the methodology that is used is really define, measure, analyze, improve, and control. And really this framework is what really is very popular, and it's easy to deploy within the organization. One of the key things that I learned as I went through this was, well, we need to attract and satisfy our customers within the contact center, Mohan, and then what are we going to do about it? And also, does that mean that we're going to reduce headcount to increase that? So I tell people that in my journey that we have the methodology that has been proven by Fortune 100 companies and also smaller companies, and we can definitely show you how the culture can actually promote professional development within employees and actually benefit the staying power of employees. And again, one of the quotes by Jack Welch was where he talked about variation, and we'll talk about variation in this presentation. And he said that we wanted to reduce variation, and then we used all our energy and focus. This is a very common theme that we saw. And again, we wanted to make sure that we reduced span, and some of the things that Welch talked about, touched on, really would tie in into the call quality and the actual service delivery of the call center agent. So what is the difference between Six Sigma and Lean? We talk about Six Sigma, and it's fundamentally listening to the voice of what the customer is telling us and using statistical models to find out what exactly the bottlenecks are within the processes. And Lean focuses more on a flexible process where it focuses on speed and reducing wastage. And rather than a push, it focuses on a pull system from the customer, and you're dictating your processes based on what the customer wants. Some of the activities in the define stage is really where you're identifying the problem and trying to figure out what the project is all about to help identify some of these issues within your call center. So the developing the charter, you come up with a charter in terms of the project, what the focus of the project. It could be first call resolution, it could be average handle time, but some of the definition happens here, and the tools will be provided or could be provided within the organization. The next step is measure. Here the step is pretty much taking a look at what are we measuring and how are we measuring it. Some of the measurements really trying to develop how you're going to get the data where, because there's a plethora of areas that you could go within the contact center. It's a really cool place to be. There's so much of information within the contact center that the sales and marketing teams would love to get their hands on. So within the measure stage, what this actually is all about is really to try and understand what the requirements are to match the goals that you've earlier defined. Going into the analyze stage, it's really carrying out an analysis of these requirements for the process that you've actually mapped out, and based on that you come up with an outline design of the new process, and really trying to drill deeper into the fundamentals of what the contact center is supposed to do, and removing any bottlenecks or any areas, and defining boundaries too within the project scope. And this is where we are concentrating on the vital few, the critical few that are actually causing most of the issues with regards to whether it's first call resolution or average handle time or attrition within your contact center, which seems to be a common theme. So now this is done, we are going into really taking a look at coming up with the identifying the root causes in the analyze stage. So you're formulating theories, you're testing the theories, you're piloting it, you're seeing, whether something can shift or change, and based on the data that you've collected on a particular program, a campaign, whether it's inbound, whether it's outbound, whether it's collections, you want to test and formulate these theories before you make these recommendations. This is really the key step. Now usually the analyze stage is where great ideas are brainstormed, and it gets very intense, very exciting. This is where breakthroughs are actually made. In this fourth step, we're looking at the improve stage. Several sequential activities are performed here. You're looking at alternatives, evaluation of alternatives, any improvement methods that need to be developed as you're reducing some of the root causes of these issues. You're also taking a look at what the cost impact would be, what the cost benefit would be, and any cultural impacts with regards to how someone handles the call or the type of callers that may be impacted by these improvements. For an example, some of the case studies I was talking about earlier, we had decided to use some of the low-value callers or the collection calls to go through the IVR and let some of our high-value callers or high-end customers access an agent. So that in terms of priority queuing, in terms of getting them to the best agent first, was some of the redesign we did in the IVR. And you know, the more tenured agents were handling the more high-value clients, and rightfully so. They ended up in the queue, and they went first in queue, whereas the other callers, we tend to walk them through the IVR, and we had our collections team calling them, etc. So this is where some of the improvements were recommended and some of the designs that we had actually put forth. Also here, there's also some cultural resistance as well. As these improved stages are being developed. We need to take a look at how this is going to impact the contact center. I would say the most important part is really good planning, good preparation, and really good cooperation between everybody in this project team with the folks in sales and marketing and operations. Because there's a joke that goes out there that, you know, usually the call center is the last group to know if there's any changes or anything out there to sales and marketing. So we want to make sure that you get everybody from operations involved with the folks in sales and marketing and product development. In the third stage, we're looking at control. Here, the controls are put in place to ensure that all the disciplines that you've gained and the learnings and some of the process improvements that have been achieved over the course of the 3 months or 6 months, the timeline that you define, will continue, and the problem would not reoccur, because and habits tend to develop, and this is where it's inculcated as part of the DNA of the department. So this is where the activities that need to be carried out is really, you want to audit, and you want to make sure that you have effective quality controls in place at each checkpoint, and make sure that the certification of the green belts, the yellow belts, the black belts continue, and move to the next step. I would be remiss, again, if I didn't talk about Six Sigma and variation, and really the elimination of variation specific to this. So it's really trying to understand from a process level what that means. Six Sigma is really about defects per parts, defects per million parts. So as you take a look in terms of reducing this variation and reducing wastage, we can really improve. Currently, most organizations focus on really trying to get to that level. But again, it's trying to achieve that level, which is exciting. So it's an indicator. It's the goal, but the journey to get to the goal is what's really exciting about that. So the basics, again, of Lean Six Sigma compared to Six Sigma is really about speed, listening to the customer with the voice of the customer, implementing pull systems, improving your process flow, and really a continuous improvement philosophy. The goals, again, you're trying to achieve the lowest cost at the highest quality with the shortest amount of time, and it's really a flexible process. To understand that, you know, waste is simply something that raises costs everywhere, and what I call revenue leakage, and it really threatens the well-being of the center and the center employees. So we need to also understand that waste, you know, you have to recognize and identify where the waste is within the process. And this is the hardest part, is to have the courage to call it waste, and, you know, non-value add activities, can we do this better? And, you know, some of the voice of the customers, some of the voice of the employees are also polled to see where exactly because usually most people ignore the voice of the employee in terms of how to make process improvements. And I would encourage folks to really do a survey to understand, or have a brainstorming session to understand what your employees are saying from an internal level. At the services side, we're taking a look at the 7 transactional waste in terms of overproduction. Too many reports. There's copious amounts of data out there in the contact center, and we see daily reports and a lot of copies. Being environmentally friendly, I tend to say if there's a report that I'm not looking at, chances are I won't look at it a week from now. So we need to take a look at that. And idle time. There's a lot of batch processing happening, and also from an agent's perspective, there's opportunity to maximize the idle time or available time of an agent. Perhaps training could be done at that time where there's low call volume days or low call volume moments during the day. Waste in transportation, waste of processing. There's a lot of items in terms of transactions waiting to be processed through email or through chat. There's so many transactions that what I call work in process, and unneeded data entry steps, key steps. This is where technology comes in terms of monitoring that quality to see based on what the agent is doing. There's a lot of key entry steps to get from one CRM solution to another CRM solution. One of the case study I was talking about earlier in the financial services side, an agent had 17 applications to get a response back to a customer who was going on vacation about putting a notation on his Visa card in his checking account. So there's a lot of unneeded data entry steps. A routine 3-minute call in a best practice call center turned out to be a 27-minute call. Waste of making defective products. Again, some of these can actually be applied in the service side. Well, why 99% is not good enough? And again, the goodness level of 99% equates to 20,000 lost articles of mail per hour. And again, some of these things are shocking. But again, from a call center perspective, this speaks volumes in terms of why the journey to get to a Six Sigma level is something to aspire to. The quality challenge. When developing a quality philosophy or quality monitoring program within your contact center, is really to take a look at some of the root causes of why we're developing the quality monitoring sheet or the quality monitoring program. It's really trying to understand, rather than repeating the habits of the past. We're living in an age where we have a lot of Gen X and Gen Y people working in our contact centers, and really they are the ones who know that technology is really the key to link everything. So from understanding the root causes, some of the sophistication can actually be taken out from the quality monitoring tool to keep it simple and to keep the folks in our contact center focus on really doing the right thing for the customer. Again, we compare the old school and the new school. The old school was all about batch processing and pushing stuff down the pipe. And again, it was about capacity and detection to find out what was going wrong. And there's a lot of non-value added legacy stuff going on, or things that were picked up from one program into another program. And it was really okay, but it wasn't getting to really speed and velocity to try and get to the customer who really has choices in this internet age. So Lean Six Sigma is really about trying to understand where the bottlenecks are and trying to streamline the processes in a transaction environment. So this is the difference between the new and the old. And there's several areas that you can actually pull the voice of the customer. There are complaints. There are also compliments as well. What are the best in class? What are the folks that are doing really well in your department? And from product returns, warranty calls, sales references. That'll be a great way to find out what some of the choices that our customers are using. About 10 years ago, the internet channel was one that was really not explored fully by some of the traditional banks in Canada, but today it is one of those channels, and self-serve banking became quite common in the late 90s. And so there are a lot of trends that we see, and the voices of the customers are indicators for us to try and make sure that we mirror that within the contact center as well. It's really not uncommon to walk into a contact center today, in a multimedia contact center, to see some of these applications in an agent desktop. And again, these voices of the customers, and really our customers are communicating to us in various ways in their buyer behavior, and really how they, to us, formally and informally. And the other piece is through communications we send out to our customers. So ultimately, it's a financial impact to us. So here's a few of the questions I would ask you to consider for your organization. Really, what is the cost of scrap? What is the cost of rework? What is the cost of excessive cycle times and delays? And what is really the total cost of poor quality in your organization? And really, one of the indicators would be defecting customers. Customers actually defect and not really knowing about it, and they don't give us any feedback as to why they left. So fundamentally, the voice of the customer actually benefits not only our customers, it also benefits our employee. And the effects of loyalty of our employees and our customers really are the ones that will improve retention rates. A typical call monitoring scenario has several dimensions to it. We have a greeting. We validate the customer, authenticate the customer. We look at tone, volume, communication, use of technical terms or jargon, depending again on the customer you're speaking with and their knowledge or comprehension of the technology. Use of whole button, call transfer, taking orders, processing orders, summarize the order, and exit and end the call. Some of the call centers, contact centers that we've had focus on compliance to call adherence. Call quality is really a definition that comes out, but it's really more about, did you do the call right? Did you not make the mistake? And how to make sure that we get the order, process the order, and move through. The best in class, the best of breed organizations really go one step further and really focus on the cross-selling and upselling opportunities, and looking at really trying to link some of the work that the Lean Six Sigma project teams have done to take it to the next level. And again, summary of some of the call quality sheet would give you a performance review summary here, where you take a look at areas that they need to work on, areas that they need to focus on, and zoom in and say, okay, we need to focus on style and delivery and some of the areas that, that they really go back to coaching. Overall, in the quality cycle, really it's all about hiring the right candidate to work. And we know in a contact center environment, you're really trying to get skill sets to be successful in a contact center environment and really deliver quality customer service to the customers out there, ranging from collection calls to sales calls. So you get a number of calls coming in, and you have to train that. Now, the training environment not necessarily can simulate that, but it can actually provide a basis of understanding what the operations teams are actually doing. So there's a lot of best practices that actually go into training. So it's a close looped cycle here, and this is where Lean Six Sigma, using its define, measure, analyze, improve, and control. In the early days, we spent a lot of time in the training rooms when new hires were coming in to understand what was being taught in the training class, and then we linked into what was happening out there on the floor, and we developed some pretty critical process improvement areas. Here's a sample QA sheet where we talk about the call flow in terms of how the agent is measured. We are looking at greeting, handling the contact, taking a look at some of the solutions, and if the agent notified the customer of things that they need to do, call to action, etc., telephone skills. It doesn't really give you specific skills that the agent is going to struggle with. However, from a process point of view, if you take a look at the process, it looks like a pretty close loop process. As you drill down and you take this into the training environment and you share with them how Susie did or Dave did, you can see the degree of skill that they have developed since they graduated from training. So I would encourage, as you're developing a QA sheet, to really involve the training team, to involve the recruiting team, to involve the folks in sales, because ultimately it's their customers that you're impacting, to develop to see if this QA sheet is really evolved to the business needs. And I walked into a contact center 3 years ago, and they were using a quality monitoring sheet that was developed 10 years ago. So the business has changed, but the quality sheet hasn't. So something to consider. A case study with a company, again, what we did was I was really eager to see what our customers were saying about our business process before and after. So we wanted to do some baseline testing. We sent out some surveys to our customers to see how they were feeling about our service that we were offering them. We sent out some invites, and we had a third-party review and take a look, and on a scale of 1 to 10, and based on several criteria, they measured their experience when they dealt with our contact center. And the responses initially was disappointing. As you can see, we sent out quite a number of surveys, and we got very little invites. However, what was really interesting in those responses from our customers, we were actually measured on, was really what we were doing good, and also what we were actually not fulfilling our obligations. And we broke it down further, depending on the region. We broke it down to north, south, east, and west. And based on the scores, you could see that we were really struggling in areas in terms of responsiveness from our customers in the north and in the east during certain periods. So we wanted to find out why were they not responding. And the other part is, in terms of the scores that they were giving us, we were really struggling in the south, and this was validation from the customers to say, you know, in the first 3 months in the south we were really struggling. There was a turnover, and there was a new management team, and we understood that that was reflected on the surveys that the customers were actually telling us. And why I mention this is that it really impacted our contact center, where some of our complaints were coming from the southern region. The compliments and the best practices were actually developed from the eastern region team, where they had some best practices that we were never aware of what they were doing. So we took some of our top agents, and we took some of our sales members from the east, and determined what they were doing, related this and shared this with our team and our QA team to develop a really best practice model within our organization to develop a process that was viable not only for one particular department, but we used it regionally. And again, we're taking a look by brand. You can see that we were doing relatively well in some areas, but in workstation peripherals, we were not doing too well. And again, these were some of the calls that were coming into by our resellers and by our distributors into our contact center, and we're determining what the issue was during certain periods of the year. And this validated in the measure and analyze stage some of our concerns as a Six Sigma team, Lean Six Sigma team went to these areas to figure out, take a look at these sheets from our customers, visited some of these sites, and got some real live data. And there's more proof here in the pudding, where we also had a high attrition rate in our call center based on some of these complaints that we got. So we did a drill down in terms of some of the root causes, and we went back to product engineering, our support teams, and really understood that it was really a product redesign, and involved our logistics team. Our supply chain was also involved. Sales really assisted our team in the contact center, and was really a collective effort to try and understand what was the problem. The whole learning in this, for me personally as a member of that team, was really the teamwork. The training and the coaching teams got together and developed a training module that really helped in the 3 to 6 months of this project. And also at the same time, we developed a quality monitoring tool that helped us identify some of the root causes faster and reduced our complaints quicker. One of the key things as you're developing a quality monitoring tool is to develop an engagement roadmap. And these are things that really has to be in place, and you need the support and endorsement of top management in your company who are really have that vision and really the passion to drive that change. You got to do the due diligence. You got to make sure that the transition, you're assisting the agents on the phone, talking to them, and developing the quality monitoring sheet to understand that change is good, and they will be part of that process. Getting everybody in the buy-in and getting the knowledge transfer from the best in class to train the folks that are in transition who are struggling on the phones. This is where the transformation really happens. The Lean Six Sigma quality solution, based on the case studies that I talked about, really involves coming up with a process where you are developing the define, measure, analyze, improve, and control training early on to the team. And it can be done with minimal cost, but the return on that investment far supersedes any program that you are going to embrace. And again, you got to use the due diligence and develop your quality monitoring sheet that is fair and effective based on what the customer and the employees who are on the phones telling you. And you got to have control of that process and checkpoints along the way. By developing a quality monitoring tool and a quality monitoring score sheet, you'll be able to build better relationships or enhance existing relationships if you have offshore teams or home agents. Irregardless of where your teams are, you can do it with efficiency and with quality, and they will actually be embracing this rather than it being pushed down to them. This is the way it is, and how you are going to do it today forward. And again, the benefits in the ROI, there's evidence of success for Lean Six Sigma across the board. When you deploy a Lean Six Sigma quality program, as I mentioned earlier, you need to get a project lead, and typically this is someone who is a senior member of the team, a team leader who is certified or is aware of what Lean Six Sigma or Six Sigma is all about, and you got to get subject matter experts, of course, and you need to have team involvement, whether they are sales managers, supply chain managers, people in training, HR. There are a lot of people who want to contribute to the team's success, and as you're developing this, you come up with a team composition who are going to give you insight to developing a quality monitoring sheet that you never thought was possible. For example, our HR manager was sitting in one of our discussions in a previous company I was working with, and she said, why are you looking at this particular element in the quality monitoring sheet? And we turned and looked at her and said, what do you mean? She said, this is pretty basic because it is against our HR policy to ask this particular question. And again, it's valuable for us to take a look at everybody. Again, the awareness, have a kickoff meeting and get everybody into what that quality is all about. And quality means different things to different people. It should start from day one when the new hires come into the organization, come into the department. Quality is usually brought in after the agent has been on the floor. I would recommend bringing the quality spokesperson into the team early on in the first week and be passionate about what quality is all about. Most of the ideas came from the new hire class in terms of developing and improving our quality team, and that again was in an organization that was steeped in tradition and resisting change. Again, pre-process training, you got to have specific toll gates in terms of determining if that quality sheet is working and the monitoring sheet is working based on a pilot that you do for perhaps maybe the outbound team or the sales and marketing team. Try and get that training done with them, get them familiarized with the quality sheet, be very transparent and share with them and get their opinion and get them to mark their own score, their own call, get them to score themselves. In my experience, I found that the agents that graded themselves harshly, more harshly than the actual monitor themselves. So again, go through the different toll gates, do some, have a buddy system, a shadowing of live calls, and also where you're doing a side-by-side. And this is where the certification really comes in, to know that you have a quality monitor that is certified and following the methodology really leads to the credibility of the program. The outcomes based on the case study that I'd talked about earlier, there was an increase in overall job satisfaction and awareness in terms of what they were doing to handle the particular call. We went through a training program where we had everybody go through the orientation of what quality and Lean Six Sigma was all about. We reduced complaints significantly from our reps on the phone. There was better efficient service and the productivity went up. We reduced attrition from 42% to 21% over a year. And they were very enthralled with this program. Again, some of the laws of Lean Six Sigma, again, the zeroth law of Lean Six Sigma is really the law of the market. You know, customer critical quality defects are always the highest priority. And really, these are the things that really drive a customer bananas when they call the call center and they're complaining about a quality defect, and we don't respond to them quickly. And the law of flexibility is all about process velocity. We want to make sure that we get a process that really is flexible enough and quick enough to make sure that we get the agent, really the empowerment to really focus on what they need to fix during a call and improve their efficiency. Again, Pareto's law, the law of focus, 20% of the activities that we're going to focus on cause 80% of the delays in a given process. And the law of velocity is really velocity of any process is inversely proportional to the variation. And I hope today we had touched on some of the basic concepts of Lean and Six Sigma and talked and integrate that into the contact center. And I shared the DMAIC principle and some of the laws and how you can actually, with very little or small costs, you can design, develop, and implement a create program into your contact center. So thank you very much, and I will now hand this off to Patrick, who will take over from now. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mohan, and thank you, Prem, for the introduction. That was fantastic. Today I'm going to give you a brief introduction to VPI, and then we'll introduce you to the latest, more intelligent quality assurance and coaching software tools available. These analytics-driven quality tools, they've been designed to help you dramatically accelerate your Lean Six Sigma or other continuous improvement initiatives. Just a little bit about VPI. We've been in business for 15 years. We're based in North America, and we have over 1,300 customers around the world. We're one of the first open architecture recording providers, and since then we've built several other applications to help analyze that information, help you evaluate information, not only from your interactions, but from all the systems within your contact center. What we do uniquely that no one else in the market does, or what we feel we do better, is we've developed ready-to-use software solutions where we work very closely with our customers, with industry experts, with analysts, including Mohan and Prem, and we've developed out-of-the-box capabilities. So 90% of the metrics that contact centers are using today in the Six Sigma metrics that are most often used, we've developed those into our products. So for you, it's easier to get started, get going. It doesn't require a lot of professional services, and helps lower your total cost of ownership. And we're very proud on our responsive sales and support. So support is a key initiative. We are the same principles that Mohan talked about. We use internally, and also integrate with the majority of the systems as well, including Avaya, Cisco, Mitel, Aspect, Siemens, Nortel, some of the systems there, just so you don't have to worry about that, and we make that process easy for you. These are some of our customers. I won't go through them, but you may be familiar with several of them. They rely on us daily to help capture and analyze their interactions. And then I wanted to go into traditional quality monitoring and why it's very difficult when using traditional quality monitoring to employ the continuous improvement or Lean Six Sigma methodology. And really, with traditional quality monitoring, when you're doing random or selective evaluations where you're randomly recording calls and then randomly listening to calls, you're typically getting very low number of high-value calls. You're going to get a small percentage of calls that actually mean something to whatever initiative you're trying to improve. So, you know, with the traditional approach, it's very difficult to get those high-value calls. A lot of those calls are not going to be coachable. And we'll get into what the new intelligent or analytics-driven quality assurance looks like. So traditional QM, it's very agent-focused, right? So you're going through, you're listening to calls, you're scoring the agents. Oftentimes, we go into sites where some of the QA analysts have never even handled a call, right? So they're in there and they're scoring the agents on script adherence or procedural compliance or, certain internal policies, and they're identifying training needs, but they're not really looking into organizational processes or looking at it from the customer experience all the time. So I'd like to get into how some of the newer tools support the lean targeted quality assurance workflow. And what I'd like to do is go through the steps of Lean Six Sigma and show you how these tools can help you accelerate each of the various steps within Six Sigma. So you'll notice here that I have a link between measure and analyze, because the measure and analyze phases within Lean Six Sigma are very closely tied together. And you want to continue to measure and analyze until you figure out the exact root causes. This is where most of the shift will happen within your Lean Six Sigma initiatives. When defining the project's purpose and scope, it's like Mohan said, it's very important to include the executives and all department heads from sales and marketing, human resources, product development, operations, and logistics. And we'll get into why that's so important. It's on the tail end. When you need to make improvements, you'll often need these people's help and the support of top executives from all the departments, because a lot of what you're going to find in many cases is not just related to internal contact center issues. You're going to have those, but you're also going to need help from the other departments to really improve your processes and the customer experience. So here's some example project charters, which I'll take you through. And these are kind of the defects or the metrics that you'd be looking to improve with Lean Six Sigma or another continuous improvement method. One would be low first call contact resolution rates. This is a very hot metric right now for obvious reasons. What it does is it helps really improve customer satisfaction, it helps drive sales and upselling opportunities, and it gives you the ability to focus your resources elsewhere once you've improved first contact resolution. If you have a high customer defection rate, we'll look at how some of these tools can help you address that quicker. Long handle times, high transfer rates, and inconsistent sales. You may have certain sales teams selling a lot better than other sales teams, and we'll show you how you can address each of these issues if these happen to be part of your project scope. So in the measure phase, your goal here is to gather information on the current situation. One of the tools that's extremely valuable, and we're seeing a lot more adoption of, is full-time voice and screen recording. If you're only monitoring random calls, as I mentioned earlier, you're not going to have access to those high-value calls, and you don't really know what a high-value call is until that call has ended. And even after the call has ended, we have customers that like to keep those calls because they like to recreate the entire customer experience. And I'll show you how it's possible to recreate the entire customer experience with the use of some of these analytical tools. What's nice about the way VPI does the screen recording, and this becomes more of an issue in voice over IP environments, is we're able to send the video file after the interaction has taken place, so after the agent completes wrap time. At that point, we can send the video file across the network, and the IT departments really love that, because if you're streaming videos across the network, especially if you have remote agents or home agents, it can be an issue. If it's a low-value interaction that you don't want to keep, say it's just a change of address and it's not related to what you're trying to improve, you can remove that recording. And the cost of storage has come down tremendously, so it's not as much of an issue to store high volume of interactions anymore. And it's very valuable, as I'll show you, the ability to review screen recordings, to review the process that the agents are using. What are they trying to access within the knowledge base? Where are they having problems? Where are the bottlenecks occurring? a lot of that you can't get from just voice recording. So we're seeing the majority of our customers are implementing screen recording as well. Another very valuable tool, and Mohan really touched upon this, is the ability to create flexible quality monitoring tools. So we've made it really easy, just using pointing and clicking with no code required, to build targeted QA forms. And you can build these forms, as many as you'd like, very targeted to the types of issues that you're focusing on. So our customers typically don't have one quality monitoring form. They'll develop quality monitoring forms related to the types of calls that their agents are taking or the types of issues they're trying to solve. So we call that targeted quality monitoring or targeted quality assurance. What's nice about these forms is you're able to also, in addition to assigning a skill, such as procedural compliance or product knowledge or call handling, to each of the questions, you're able to also assign a segment. So where did that question take place within the call flow? And upon scoring the agents or measuring their performance, when you're reporting back, you can now report on how they're improving on or where the skill gaps are by skill. You can also see where the gaps are by call segment. Are there certain parts of the segments that we're struggling on, that we're getting hung up on? Where are the process breakdowns? Another nice thing is we made it very flexible so that at any time you're able to change questions without affecting reporting. And that was one thing that we hear from a lot of new customers, is that they weren't able to effectively change and keep up their quality monitoring forms. Mohan mentioned, one of the places that he worked with, they were using forms from 10 years ago. Well, we can still keep that historical data, but we're able to change the form and still report against that as well. So in the analyze phase, phase 3, the goal is to identify and confirm the root causes. So what are the real issues? Why are we having issues? Why are customers complaining? And here what you want to do is really focus on QAing and measuring the high-value interactions, the interactions related to the problem you're trying to solve. So again, we're going away from random evaluation of calls to really focusing on high-value calls. And you may hear called precision quality monitoring, targeted quality monitoring, actionable quality monitoring. There's a lot of terms in the marketplace for this movement towards focusing on high-value calls, but you'll see the value is tremendous. So you want to look at both internal and external root causes. So, for example, internal root causes, you may find out that your agents were poorly trained, right? Your training content is outdated, or you have a new team leader who shortened the new hire training from 3 weeks to 2 weeks, and there's new products that are coming out and things like that, and they're not being trained properly. You may find broken processes, right? So there's a broken process within your CRM system, or agents have to access way too many applications in order to effectively solve the customer's issue, and that's creating delays, right? Poor staffing. You may, your call volume may not be matched up properly with your staffing initiatives, or Mohan mentioned queue management. Maybe poor queue management. Maybe there's a better way that you can manage the queue and route calls. Or there may be policy or system changes that are really affecting what's happening. And these are just examples. Externally, you want to look at environmental or cultural or regulatory changes, and look how maybe other field contractors or other departments or other employees are causing the issues, right? Causing people to call in and complain. So there may be product recalls or new products or services. So you want to look at what the real root causes are. And the way to do that is by focusing and really drilling down and listening to those interactions that are related to what you're trying to improve. So one of the very powerful new tools that are out there, and probably one of the most powerful tools that I've seen in recent years, and really believe that this is going to revolutionize the way contact centers manage continuous improvement, is a technology called desktop screen analytics. And if you're not familiar with desktop screen analytics, just to illustrate the example, what it does is it monitors the events and the data that agents enter within their applications, and it's able to pull all of that data and tag it to the recordings. So for as an example, if you're standing behind an agent, could you tell what type of call they're handling and if you'd want it to be evaluated, if it related to what you're trying to focus on improving? You know, if you could automatically tag all that data that the agent was seeing on their screens or entering in, then you have a lot of powerful information tagged to that interaction recording, and you could do a lot with that. So some of the information that you can pull and you may want to tag to your recordings are things like customer ID number. We've had customers for years that want customer ID, and typically what we had to do is do a back-end integration to their CRM system, which took days to do that API work. And now it's so easy. It's as easy as literally drawing a box using a tool that we use around the fields that you want to capture, and now you can capture customer ID number and tag that to your interactions. So you can search by high-value customers and focus on certain things. Case ID number, you may want to track customer saves or even pull the values of collections or promise to pays or sales values, closed accounts. Was an account closed? Did they click that button? Sensitive information. This is a great tool if you take credit cards over the phone. There's a lot of new regulations around PCI compliance and audio recordings that are becoming very strict, and one of the greatest technologies is to be able to identify where that sensitive credit card information was entered. If an agent goes into a sensitive credit card screen, at that point we're going to mark it, and you can see here with the red line on the screen where that agent entered the credit card entry screen, and then where that agent left. And at that point, you can either mark that entire file for deletion or you can mask and mute out that section, depending on what you'd like. But this is extremely powerful technology, very easy to implement, and we'll talk about how you can use all of this valuable data that's tagged to the calls to really find the interactions that matter most to you. So once you have all the data, the new quality monitoring systems will automatically classify those calls that are important to you. So for example, here, if you're really focusing on solving first contact resolution, what you can do is have automatically all repeat calls be put into a bucket where you can listen to those calls and figure out why customers are calling in repeat, right? And it's easy. If you're tracking case ID, if you're pulling that from the agent screens, then every case ID with that same ID will be automatically compiled together. And when you go to evaluate that, you're going to get all the calls related to that case ID. Another way to do it is you track a customer ID, some sort of unique customer identifier or account identifier, and you track the reason code. So you pull the reason from the screen as well. And any time that customer calls in for that reason, that's going to get flagged or bucketed so you can listen to those calls that came in for the same reason multiple times. Customer defection, right? You may want to look at canceled accounts, things of that nature, those types of calls. If you're working on improving or optimizing your handle time, you may want to classify and monitor calls with long handle times between key processes. So keep in mind when you're using desktop screen analytics, you can now monitor certain events. So if they go into this screen and they leave this screen, we really want to evaluate the handle time between that process, between the time an order was started and an order was completed, or account was edited to the end of the time that the account was edited. So you can now track handle time between key processes. You can track handle time or wrap time, things like that. You can look at hold times, right? So let me evaluate all the calls that had a hold time of this much or that had multiple holds, things like that. With transfer rights, you can evaluate all calls with a certain number of transfers, transferred to certain departments, things like that. And let's say you're interested in improving your sales, inconsistent sales. You may want to look at all new orders or upsell attempts, or even upsell attempts that didn't result in a new sale. It resulted in a sale that was lower than expected. So there's very valuable, the power of automatically assembling these interactions for you and flagging them or putting them into buckets for your QA team, or sending them directly automatically to your QA team is very valuable. So a little more on targeted quality assurance. So the analytics are automatically assembling your interactions. They're classifying your interactions. And let's say you want to focus on evaluating canceled accounts. That's really the issue. You want to find out and figure out why customers are canceling their accounts. Well, you're still going to grade and score the agents on all canceled accounts. So, yeah, agents may say, well, those are my worst calls. Well, you're still scoring all your agents on canceled accounts, so they're still fairly being evaluated. But now you can really dig down and focus on important operational processes. You can measure complete end-to-end processes. You can measure the entire customer experience. So if you're pulling customer ID or case ID or account ID, now what the system automatically does is pulls all of those interactions, those multimedia interactions. It may not always be a call, but any way that that customer access your company, it'll pull all that information together and allow you to evaluate the entire customer experience. So you're not just looking at individual call segments anymore, or individual calls or individual days. You're looking at entire customer experience over X number of days. It could be 30 days, 60 days. You define that. So very powerful there to figure out exactly why customers are defecting or why customers are calling in multiple times. So to look at traditional QA again, here's just an example. So for example, in traditional QA, an agent will take 3,600 calls per month, just as a sample. Let's say the supervisors are asked to evaluate 3 calls per agent per month, and what you get is a really, really low sampling rate that it's not valid. You can't make any business decisions on. You can score the agent, right, but you can't make business decisions or accurate business decisions on such a low sampling rate. And typically what we will do is we'll provide feedback, 30 days later, a week later. By then the agent may have already forgotten about exactly what happened on that call, and there's not as much stickiness to the feedback and the training. And oftentimes we pull agents into classrooms based on some things that certain supervisors heard, and we'll train every agent on everything. And what that does is for the agents that already know how to do things well, it really wastes a lot of time. Now, targeted, actionable quality assurance, the same example, an agent takes 3,600 calls per month. Now what the system's going to do is it's going to send you a sample of the calls that you really care about. It's going to send each supervisor a sample of 3 of the 200 new accounts this month, for example. What you get is a much greater sampling rate, a sampling rate that even politicians are elected on less than this. So now you have much better accuracy, and you can make accurate decisions about your operations, about your processes, about the customer experience, and really help improve the Lean Six Sigma or your continuous improvement initiatives. And also gives you the ability to target your training, and we'll get into the importance of targeted training versus just training on everything, so your agents can make better decisions. So what an automated targeted QA workflow looks like, now what your QA system is going to do is it's going to send each of your evaluators a sample of high-value calls. So they're going to get a to-do list. They're going to see, high-value sales orders, canceled accounts, whatever you want them to focus on, it's going to automatically send to them. So what this does is it eliminates the hunting and pecking and listening for calls that are coachable or have value. And we've seen several of our customers save over 50% of the time they were QAing their calls. So that's a dramatic savings right there, just in the automation of having calls delivered to them. And that's not even having high-value calls delivered to them. So with having high-value calls delivered to them, there's even more savings. And what it's going to do is it's also going to assign automatically a targeted QA form that you're interested in having them use. So if they're evaluating a canceled account, they're going to get the canceled account QA form automatically that they can use to evaluate that canceled account. And like Mohan mentioned, these QA forms are going to be much more targeted and include feedback from other organizations on what do we really want to look into when we're evaluating canceled accounts. So now to the improve phase, phase 4. The improve phase, the goal is really to develop and implement solutions that are going to address the root causes that you've uncovered using your targeted QA. You're going to have actions that are tested and proven and to eliminate the impact of these root causes. So measurable coaching and training is key, and measurable is a key word here. If you can't measure the impact of your coaching and training, you're not going to be as successful in terms of your continuous improvement initiatives. So it's very important that the impact of their coaching is measurable. You want to empower your employees, empower them. Employees will, if you give them the tools that they need to be successful, show them the metrics that they're being measured on, they will oftentimes, the majority of the time, they will improve on their own. And then the combination of training is very powerful. And then you may decide you want to drive certain types of interactions, like Mohan mentioned, to an IVR or to a web self-service to help reduce certain types of low-value interactions into the contact center. So here's an example of targeted desktop and coaching. And this doesn't eliminate the need for classroom training, but what this does is a fantastic supplement to get agents up to speed that have skill gaps. So not every agent gets every training course. You can send coaching courses to all agents if it's a new policy, a new product, or something of that nature. However, you can also send targeted training that's rules-based. So if an agent falls below a certain threshold, either on their QA form scores or any other metric within the contact center, they can automatically receive this coaching during, Mohan mentioned during slow times or idle times. What's nice is it integrates with your workforce management system, if you have one, to where it'll send that coaching or allow them to take coaching only during certain times that you've assigned within workforce management. So you may assign a coaching job within your workforce management system. At that time, agents will be able to take that training, and if they don't finish, it'll stop them and it'll remember where they were. So when they go resume that training course, it will allow them to resume for that period of time. And what's nice about these e-learning or coaching solutions that are available now is that they track very closely exactly how agents are doing in training. If you set up your coaching in what we call a SCORM, S-C-O-R-M, compliant format, which is the industry standard for e-learning, and almost every authoring tool can support SCORM, you'll be able to track, even down to the question level, how long agents are spending in each question. So very powerful to be able to measure where agents are faltering within quizzes, within courses, and so forth, and find out what the causes are for those training insufficiencies. It's just an illustration from a recent research project that was completed on the value of coaching. So here you can see the value of coaching combined with training is tremendous. So some of the results that contact centers recently achieved are 50% lower employee turnover, right? So you're constantly providing them with valuable information, constantly giving them knowledge. You know, Mohan talked about the power of Six Sigma in empowering employees. So, you know, having them earn a green belt, having them, you know, understand and bring them into this in the ones, reduce handle time by 10 to 20%. A big one, 56% higher customer loyalty and 27% greater profitability. So if you're not already doing e-coaching at the desktop, then this is one tool that'll pay for itself really quickly. Another very powerful tool that we offer our customers with our quality management software is these real-time tickers. So we have the ability to pull information from multiple systems, your ACD system, from CRM systems, from what's nice is you can pull a lot of these metrics directly from the screens now with desktop analytics and create custom tickers for your agents, for your supervisors, for your managers, for your executives. So they know exactly what's going on at all times. I've highlighted here or circled with the red box just to show you that you can pull in QA scores, right? So average QA, the QA score on compliance. You can pull in how many coaching assignments have been assigned to them, and they can drill down on these tickers to take the coachings at that time. And what's nice is this really empowers the agents. So you can show their score on the metrics that you're tracking them against for these initiatives, and show them versus their goal or versus their team to see how everyone's doing. And what it does is it eliminates the the need for, right now the majority of new customers that we work with are doing either weekly or monthly reporting. But like I mentioned before, it's usually too late to take action. Even end of day is too late in many cases to take action on what's happening or adjust campaigns or things of that nature. So another great tool that we offer is we call them Scorecards. So basically it's an expanded view of the ticker that allows agents, supervisors, managers, and executives to see how they're doing or their departments are doing or groups are doing versus the target on either daily, weekly, monthly basis, and then versus goals. So these are great because you can, like I mentioned, we have a majority of the metrics that contact centers use already built into the software, and you can drag and drop these various metrics into your scorecards, into your tickers, to create them completely custom for your environment. And the final step of Lean Six Sigma is control, and I'll show you some tools that we put in place to really help you control, to make sure that that you maintain the gains that you've created with Lean Six Sigma or your other continuous improvement initiatives. It's very key here that you use data to monitor the solutions that you put in place. So you want to look at a before and after analysis. You want to put early warning systems in place, right? So if certain things are indicators or leading indicators of the process going awry or what what you put in place not working anymore, then you want to be notified. So here's some of the what we call them dashboards. Mohan referred to them as controls, but what you want to do is put controls in place, and these can be completely customized. This is a look at what we call the My VPI landing page, very similar to My Yahoo or My Google. and everyone in the organization can have a custom dashboard. And so the person that takes over the Lean Six Sigma initiative to monitor and make sure, and it's typically a QA analyst or someone that has been assigned to that project to make sure that the gains are being realized and continue to be realized. This person can create their customized dashboard on everything, all the metrics that matter to them, and what they're interested in monitoring over time. Another great tool that's available to you now is business rules, rules that can send alerts and notifications, that can send coaching and e-learning if agents have skill gaps and there's thresholds not being met. You can also tag certain types of calls automatically for evaluation if things pop up. So you can find out what's going on and correct it quickly if things go awry. You can also decide to use these same rules for variable archiving. So if there's certain types of interactions you're not interested in keeping anymore, you can use those rules. And we offer a variety of templates to cover virtually any type of business rule that you're interested in, and those can be customized. And we do offer professional services for that as well to make it very customized to your needs if desired. Example of early warning indicators. So at a department or group level, you may set an indicator that says, all right, if handle time for this group goes above a certain threshold, then I want to be notified. Or my sales conversions drop below a certain threshold, I need to be notified. And it uses that same rules engine. On the agent level, it may be a metric that you're interested in tracking. It could also be something that they access within the screens. It could be a certain button they press. For example, here, let's say an agent's working on a high-value VIP customer and they cancel one of their services. That may be an early warning indicator that management wants to know about and find out why one of our VIP customers is canceling their service. So very powerful tools that use the concepts of automation, analytics to analyze the interactions, and then rules to make them actionable. Analytics is great, but the real ROI comes from the ability to make the tools actionable and provide you with information that you can actually use to make changes and improvements. So that's all I had. At this point, I'd like to turn it back over to Prem, and I thank you so much for your time, and we look forward to the opportunity to working with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. I'm just going to go through some questions that I received through the chat box here, and I got two that's directed at you. So I'll start off. The first question is, what is involved in implementing the screen analytics tools to find our high-value calls?
Thanks, Prem. That's a great question. Like I mentioned, it's really easy to define or at least pull the information from the screens. The part that we find that we spend the time really working and partnering with our customers, and this is where I always recommend make sure you have a really tight relationship with your technology partner, is to define exactly what they want to capture, because you can capture so much great information from the agent's applications and from their desktop. It's really important that you define exactly what those elements of data or what events you'd like to capture, and that's where we spend our time partnering with our customers. The actual implementation is really straightforward and simple. We have a tool that allows us to virtually draw boxes around the fields and the events that we're interested in capturing, and then those will automatically get tagged to the recordings from all agents, whether they be in-house or remote agents. So that's, hope that answers your question.
Okay, great. Next question is directed at you. It's the caller said that you mentioned that the desktop screen analytics can be used to find repeat calls and accurately measure the first call resolution, but can you explain that in more detail?
Yeah, that's also a great question. This is one of the topics that I get asked about the most. around first call resolution is a lot of customers or companies are using customer surveys for first call resolution. I've seen companies use quality monitoring forms to define first call resolution. I've seen others use ACD metrics, right? So they're looking at repeat calls by case ID and things like that. What's nice, what's different about using desktop screen analytics for first call resolution is that with customer surveying and quality monitoring, you get really only a trend of whether you're doing better or worse. You can't drill down to those interactions or each of those interactions majority of the time. With desktop screen analytics, every time someone calls in for that reason and that customer ID, you're going to get that call. So you're able to evaluate nearly 100% of the calls that came in from a certain customer with that same reason. So very accurate, much more accurate than, let's say, quality monitoring where it's a random sample, or customer surveying where not every customer takes a survey, right? So screen analytics is accurate nearly 100% of the time because it's just looking for certain events or fields or information from screens. So hope that helps.
Okay, just looking at the questions here, someone is asking, how does screen capture work with dual monitors? Is there any issues with that?
No, not at all. In fact, we do support dual monitors as well, and many of our customers these days do have dual monitors. We even support multiple monitors. We have some customers in the public safety arena that have 6, 7, 8 monitors, but typically dual monitors is where we have no problem supporting that. So.
Okay. And the other question I have here is, how would this tool help in a non-voice project?
So a non-voice, yeah, so if you have, let's say it's email, web chat, things of that sort, let's say it's back office, what's nice is screen analytics can be used to monitor events on applications that it's independent of voice capture. So what happens is in a voice environment, you have voice, and then it's monitoring the screen activity and pulling data from the screens. And then what it does is it assembles that interaction after the call. Well, in a non-voice environment, there's just that voice piece is not there, but it can still monitor the events, it can monitor data, and it can monitor the time between processes and so forth in a back office environment or an email or web chat environment. You can still capture all the data that you're interested in capturing, and that interaction just wouldn't have audio associated with it.
Okay. Did you want to take another question, or do we want to wrap?
If there's any questions for Mohan, I'd like to bring some of those up.
There was a question from Mohan that I logged here. It was regarding the actual, when he was talking in his presentation about the HR department, and there was a question that he was not allowed to ask on the QA sheet, and I had a attendee who was raising a question about what are those types of questions.
Thanks, Prem. I didn't explain that in my presentation, and I'm glad that the participant mentioned that. Depending on remote locations and depending on areas that you have outsourced work or you're doing a quality monitoring, you have to be very careful that the quality monitoring is done in a fair and effective way. Now, when the agent is measured, there are certain questions that can be misinterpreted or misunderstood in terms of asking questions more from a liability point of view. You wouldn't want an unlicensed agent asking a question with regards to financial information or credit information, and we just want to make sure that they are not breaching any federal or provincial laws. That is the only reason, number one, that HR should be present in developing while you're developing your quality monitoring tool. The second question is, with regards, I see a trend now with regards to certain questions that are being asked with responses to Mr., Mrs., Ms., etc., the suffix or the prefix. Sometimes calls that are outsourced to certain regions of the world, they are not familiar with cultural nuances in other parts of the world. So it's very important to involve the senior heads of the different regions. In our particular case study, I talked about the North and South and East and West. It was really important to have representatives, HR representatives for each areas to give us the demographics of what their customer base was saying as to build a sensitivity to the quality monitoring sheet. Does that help?
Sure. Okay. And I think this one could be directed either yourself or Patrick. The person didn't state if it's for Patrick or you, but I'll pose it to you. What are the most common ways call centers are measuring and improving FCR?
I can take, if you want to expand.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
On that, the most common methods being used, just read a recent survey on this, and speaking with our customers, are customers is a common method used, and there's pros and cons to customer surveying, right? So it's going to give you a trend of whether or not you're improving on FCR, and what's nice is you're getting that customer feedback. You're getting their point of view on measuring FCR. Another one is quality monitoring. Again, you're only getting a small sample, and you're able to see a trend of whether or not you're doing FCR, but quality monitoring is one where there's actually questions in the quality monitoring form that ask, did the agent satisfy, or was the customer experience satisfied, or did the agent solve the customer's needs on that contact? Problem is that customer could call in 5 minutes later or a day later about the same reason, and that's not reflected in that quality monitoring form. In certain environments, like help desk environments or support environments where there's a case ID involved, I've seen customers track first call resolution using their ACD report. So they'll look and see, was that case within, let's say, 15 days or 30 days, did a customer call in with that same case ID number? It gets a little trickier when you have a customer calling in, and let's say there's 5 things that they tried to achieve on that call, right? So they wanted to change their address, they wanted to order a new product, all these types of things. And in certain environments where they're only tracking one reason code, it's very hard to tie down and accurately measure first contact resolution. But in a help desk environment, it can be achieved from using ACD reports and things like that. With desktop screen analytics, what we're seeing is it's a lot easier to tie multiple reasons to calls, because you can say, and most people I've spoken with can't actually tie reason codes to some sort of activity that the agent does within their application. They go into a change of address screen. They go into an upselling screen or some sort of field within their application, and then map those reasons to reason codes within the system. And then that way, if there's 5 reasons that a customer is calling in for, or happens to go over on the call, 5 different reasons, all those can be tracked effectively. And then if that customer with that same customer ID or account ID calls in again for that reason or for any one of those reasons, it'll note that, and it'll note it as a repeat call and allow you to evaluate and send that to a QA analyst or supervisor. Mohan, do you want to expand on
that? I think you explained it very well. And again, one should not look at first call resolution in isolation. It's a combination of, I would say, it's a function of several other metrics as well, and we'll talk about that in our next webinar. But I just want to touch on this as well, because you talked about help desks and other businesses, lines of businesses. I would say first call resolution is a function of several things happening within the contact center. You know, you have average handling time happening there. You have calls in queue bunching up. You have it being a function of staffing as well. So depending on the nature of the call, depending on your particular business or the particular industry, I would say just taking a look at first call resolution and really drilling down with the other metrics in conjunction with the other metrics will help you understand the pain points of the customer. And, you know, like you said, they might be calling on 5 other things, and out of the 5 things, they're calling about this particular matter. So the jury's still out there, but again, it varies from customer or the organization.
Thank you, Mohan. I think I got another question here for you. It is, when measuring QA scores, what would you consider a passing score?
I would say it really is dependent on speaking to the voice of the customer. What is good and excellent for the customer? We could have internal metrics. Again, it's driven by, you know, what is good for us might not be good for the customer, which I painfully found out as the director of customer care. I would say in general, if you follow the Lean Six methodology faithfully and there's a discipline within there, and you're trying to achieve for that 90% or 100%, for me, anything greater than 70% is considered as a average score. Anything less than that is a training opportunity, and, you know, perhaps maybe not having that particular agent on the phone. In my experience, I've found that it's a risk because they're interfacing with a couple of hundred customers a week. And if you've built the discipline in your quality monitoring sheet and what I call the early warning indicator, anybody that dips on a consistent basis or a trend line, anything below a 75 or 80% score, then you need to perhaps do it not in a punitive way, but use Patrick's, you know, coaching methodology through his tool and other soft skills coaching to elevate that individual to try and get them to see, you know, this is the goal that we want to get to. But again, it's dependent on your department, you know, your black belt or your CEO, your QA manager to define what that is.
Great, thank you, Mohan. Next question, I guess, could be either one of you. It says, with regards to customer surveys, what type of questions are most commonly asked to determine customer satisfaction?
My favorite one is, what is the probability that you would recommend us to somebody that you know about our product or service? That to me is the $1,000,000 question that I look for, you know, out of these series of 5 questions we ask. It's what we call our net promoters. These are people that are passionate about our product and services that go and tell their family and friends, and you know, actually go out there and you know, get us a good name out there. Conversely speaking, that particular question is also dangerous in the sense that it also not speak favorably for us. So from a survey point of view, I look forward to those weekly surveys specific to that. But the other questions are also important. This particular one really gets me excited, or not.
I have to agree with that. I've seen a lot of benefits when our customers are using the Net Promoter Score. It's important that the whole company rally around that metric, though. You know, if like Mohan, if you said, if you're excited about it, you want to get other people excited about it so people actually start taking action. One thing you don't want to do, and Mohan, you touched upon it, is limit it to just one question, right? 1 or 2 questions around Net Promoter Score, and you're missing the opportunity to get a lot more valuable information around your products, your people, your processes, and so forth. So, like Mohan mentioned, the other questions are very important as well, but that one, you know, is proven to, if you can get the company to rally behind it and your management to rally behind it, can really see some significant gains by tracking and improving the Net Promoter Score.
Great. Thank you, Patrick and Mohan. Patrick, this one is a technical question about your software. I'll read it verbatim. If your call contains 2 points or aspects you're interested in, say a long call type and a closed account, and you had 2 different forms, which one comes to the QA screen, or does it give you a choice of either one?
It'll give you a choice of the one that you're interested in. So typically, like when you're evaluating the call, the supervisor or the QA analyst will get the call. At that point, it'll present them with which form they'd like to use. And if, let's say, your initiative is more on optimizing handle time, right? We're really going to focus this project on optimizing handle time. At that point, you can select the QA form related to that, the focus that you're focusing on. If it's canceled account, on the other hand, you can select that one. So you do. It is very flexible. You do have the option to do that, and I'll get with you and after the call, and I can show you an example of how that works. So.
Okay, great. I've got another technical question for you regarding the software. It says, do you support COPC compliance scoring sheet, critical and non-critical base factors, not percentage base?
Yeah, you can do percentage based. It's extremely flexible. They've built in the different types of scoring. So it could be point-based, percentage-based scoring. You can have all questions on one tab or multiple tabs. You can have extra credit. We built in a lot of flexibility into the form, so you can virtually create any type of form that you need to for whatever type of scoring methodology or policies or regulatory compliance forms that you'd like to use.
Okay, I got a question for Mohan here. It's regarding transaction monitoring. What is an effective method to project CSAT results?
I would say if you're taking a look at transaction monitoring, I'm not sure if it's voice-based or back office. To me, there are several things. You got to take a look at the overall metrics that are being measured here. The favorable one is turnaround time, response time, or responsiveness. And even if you do that, you got to take a look at the accuracy or the quality of input or the error rate. This is what we talk about defects in Lean Six Sigma. So you answer the call on time, or you answer the the email or whatever on time, and you got to get that out. But was that correct? Was that accurate? Was that compliant from a legal perspective, etc.? So again, turnaround time, responsiveness, this is where a lot of customers are telling us, yeah, I got the form back correctly, but my last name was missing my a few digits here, or my address was wrong, etc. So the quality of input to control that defects is what we're looking for as the output.
Great. Next question could be either of, I think this is more directed at Mohan. What is your advice on better customer experience for sales?
I would say really in terms of outbound sales or outbound calling, it is really to be aware of the philosophy of the customer, because it's quite different than an inbound center where you are actually having somebody calling you at their convenient time. In today's world where we live in, convenience and technology sometimes can be perceived by the customer as a nuisance call or automatically going to voicemail. So one has to be sensitive when you are making a sales call to customers out there, and really getting their permission before we launch on to our sales pitch, etc. The good ones, the best of breed, or the best practice models are the ones that actually have that introduction, that 30-second call where they introduce themselves and the purpose of their call. If you're actually doing the quality monitoring sheet, and seeking permission before you go on the next 30 seconds is really what sets you apart from the rest of the pack, so to speak. Patrick, do you have any comments?
Yeah, I was going to say, to find those best practices, we found that if customers focus on analyzing those best practice calls, right, so targeting best practice calls where high-value sales were made, or agents that are really successful, listening to those agents, you'll find that they often deviate from a script. So often the script is not really as effective as some of your best sales agents. So being able to find out what are those tactics that are really working that we may not have in our script or we may not be training on. Maybe 6 things that are really working and producing very high sales results, as well as a positive customer experience, and then focusing on training the others on those tactics for sales and for customer experience.
Great, thanks Patrick and Mohan. Got a question directed for Mohan. How many calls should be monitored per month per agent ideally?
My preference when I was leading our department was to actually go towards Patrick's deck there, where anything greater than 1% to 2%, sampling is good. I try and keep within the 1 to 3% of monitoring calls, simply because it's a good indicator for me on your commitment to the quality focus, because Lean Six Sigma cannot operate and be part of the DNA in quality in your organization, and who better to lead quality in the organization than the QA department and the quality monitoring team. So one has to actually sign up for it and put your money where your commitment is, and really dedicate those resources. And to me, it's really getting a sampling of between 1 to 3%. Anything less than that, you're running into defects, you're running into error rates that are very high, and at the back end there are costs that are significantly higher too. So number one, committing the resources to have quality monitors, and really the second piece when you're actually doing your workforce planning is to actually allocate and dedicate coaching time offline with the agent, with the rep, and really those are the resources that I really can see benefits from. So 1 to 3% is the goal or the target to shoot for.
Great, thank you, Mohan. Got a technical question directed to Patrick regarding the VPI software. Question is, do you have any calibration tools on the QA?
Yeah, so in terms of calibration, we do allow other, let's say, supervisors, or you can even bring agents into your calibration team to evaluate calls, and those calls do not get put into the agent's score. So you're able to calibrate, and you're able to see how other evaluators are scoring those interactions, and basically try to get everyone on the same page over time. So yeah, those tools definitely are included.
Okay. And the follow-up question to that is, do you have you offer quality monitoring tools for emails and web chats?
Yeah, so for web chat and email, we can pull those types of interactions in as well. You can use the similar type of form. Obviously, your form will have different questions, things like that. What we would do is deliver if it's a web chat, typically deliver the screen recording of that web chat, so you can see exactly how that agent interacted and how many web chats they had going on, and how they're handling, let's say, 6 or 7 different web chats. So you're able to, if they're using multiple monitors, you'll get a view of both monitors, and you're able to evaluate how they're handling either that individual web chat session, or you can have multiple web chat sessions and evaluate those as well. Same goes for email. So.
Okay, great. Thank you, Patrick. what we're going to do is going to wrap it up right now, but there's a high volume of questions coming in, and unfortunately we can't get to all of them. But I will forward these questions to either Patrick or Mohan and by email, and they would get back to you with the answers to these questions. So I'd like to thank everyone for attending this webinar. I think it went great. And we do have another webinar coming up as part 2 to this on April 15th at 2 p.m. Eastern, and that would be focused on contact center metrics that matters. And if you registered for this one, you can also register in the same format on the website at iccaevent.com, and we hope to see you then. And once again, I'd like to thank our presenters, Mohan and Patrick, for doing a great job today, and hope to see everyone at our next webinar. Thank you.
Thank you all for your time.
Thank
Have
you
a
all
great
for your
weekend.
time. Thank you.